Not everybody's able to feel a burr or see a burr. Depends on, if you got real deep fingernail grooves or if they're polished off from work. So if you can't see it or feel it, a simple piece of paper, this is just cut from a piece of Post-it note, slide it down the ramp of the blade opposite of the side you were sharpening, and if it stops, if it runs into a brick wall, see how this is catching on the burr? That means there's a burr. Now, if I flip it over, this is now the side that I was actually sharpening on. It slides off. So when you sharpen, the burr is always on the side opposite of the stone that you're sharpening on. And the paper will run into that wall, that burr. This happens to be a burr created by 240 grit. Each burr will get smaller and finer, so the paper trick lets you know when you've reached the new metal edge with one grit before you flip it over and try to establish that burr on the other side. Burr, right? So now we're going to do it on the side with the burr, and you can see the paper actually bends. It's running into that very fine burr. Now that's at 800 grit. But with a piece of paper, again, it will hook on the burr. That's 2,500 grit. There is a burr. If you get a burr at every grit you sharpen and get it on both sides, so now that I've got a burr on this side, I need to flip it over, sharpen this side, push the burr to the other side, even at 4,000 grit. Now you will be hard pressed to feel that with a fingerprint or a fingernail. That's why the paper test is a great idea. Now that all the burrs have been established, starting with a blank blade unsharpened right off the water jet cutter, zero sharpened, flat edged through all the grits, starting with 240 and establishing a burr. The final step is to get rid of the last burr with buffing compound. That's what this is, on a piece of paper. So in that case, I like to use a backward stroke only, so I don't cut into the paper or scrape off the buffing compound. Now here you won't be able to feel a burr even with the piece of paper, so I try to do just an even number of stroke counts on both sides that I'm developing from start to finish for a broadhead that I want to design for my own needs. It's a project that I happen to be working on. This just happens to be one of the blades. But the burr is the key. If you get a burr at every single grit, break that burr off at each grit, progress to the next grit. When you are done, you have a blade that will bite into your nail. A sharp blade will bite into your nail, and that's one of the key tests that you can do for sharpness. Yeah, you can shave and do all these other things, but the thumbnail test is an excellent test. Another test for sharpness is splitting a hair. Now this just happens to be a very gray hair out of my beard, since I've been around the sun a couple trips. Hard to photograph here, but we'll give it a try. I was trying to split the hair, not necessarily cut it. And we're starting to split it. It's difficult to do on film. Well, it just keeps cutting the hair rather than splitting it. No edits here, just live takes. Oh, we keep cutting the hair. There was a split. Another hair you can try to use is a paintbrush. There, I'm splitting them off. Splitting them in half. So again, the point being is if you can get a burr at every grit that you sharpen with, if you can finish with buffing compound, the edge that you will get will rival any razor blade